What happened to Jane?
I'm here.
Oh, all right. I
Okay,
didn't hear
so we
anything. I
started.
thought,
Okay, welcome everybody.
Oh, 1 second. Let me hit the record. All right, you can start.
Welcome everyone. My name is Jane Potter, and as chair of the La Jolla Shores Plan District Advisory Board, I'm calling this meeting to order. We are a volunteer advisory board appointed by the mayor, and our duty is to review all applications for permits referred to us for residential development within the La Jolla Shores Plan District, and to submit our written recommendations within 30 days to the city. I'm going to do a quick roll call to confirm board member attendance and that we have a quorum. Suzanne Weissman.
here,
Andrea Mosier.
here,
Bert Lazarow.
Here.
Kathleen Neal.
here.
Phil Wise.
Here.
Okay. And I want to thank you all for accommodating my not being able to be at the meeting time that we're supposed to have. I thought it was important for me to be a part of the discussion that we will be having today. So I appreciate you all being available. And okay, we have, we're going to go on to Marlon's comments. Marlon Pangilinan is our senior planner from the planning department. So Marlon.
Good morning, everyone. Again, Marlon Pangilinan, Senior Planner with the Planning Department. I'd like to take this time to inform the board members and meeting attendees about the meeting functions on the Zoom application that we are using to hold our online virtual meeting. Please note the buttons on your Zoom control bar appear at the bottom of your screen. On the menu, starting on your left is your microphone icon button, which allows you to mute and unmute your audio. Please remember to stay muted when you are not talking and to unmute yourself when you speak. The next button to the right of the microphone is your video camera icon. You may choose to activate it or not. You will also notice that the chat window button, which looks like a dialog callout, activates the chat function. Please keep your chat window, which will appear to the right of your screen, open at all times, as you will be using the chat function to signal when you'd like to speak. For members of the public wishing to speak during non-agenda public comment or to provide public comment on an agenda item, Zoom includes a raised hand or clapping hands feature. Simply click on the reactions button on the Zoom menu and click on the raised hand feature or select the clap hands feature, and either the chair or I will recognize you to speak for a limited time determined by the chair. Thank you. I'll turn it over to Jane.
Thank you. Let's go to item 3, approval of the agenda. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda?
Neil, motion to approve the agenda.
Second.
Second,
Phil, your microphone's not on, but I saw you mouth it. Okay. Okay, let's go to item 4, approval of the minutes. Thank you everyone for your comments. Thank you, Kathleen, for putting it together. I have, all right. I have one comment about the minutes. I've agreed with all the suggested changes, that I want to make a change to, it would be page 2, bullet item 3, which is about the whole applicant project information form. Apparently it said I clarified it in the minutes, but apparently I didn't. So here is what I suggest the minutes say. Let's see, providing review materials, e.g., etc., ahead of the meeting, and clarified that the applicant project information form is and has always been dash the only requirement. It has nothing to do with COVID. Has nothing to do with prior to COVID, since COVID, any of that. It's all we've had, period. In the olden days, the people would come, which they'll probably do again, though now there's a lot online. We never used to have anything online. Again, we never even used to have minutes. But now, what it used to be was the applicants would come, present their materials in person. This was all in person. And then also many times distribute handouts at the meeting so that we could all have a personal handout and see it in case we had any questions. And, you know, now with the website and all of that, we can, you know, they usually do submit things. It's actually to their great advantage, but there's no requirement. There wasn't one before COVID, there wasn't one during COVID, and there still isn't one. So, thank you. Anybody else have any questions or comments? Andrea?
I have one question. In the edited minutes, it's under the last, it's on the last page, the 8421 Whale Watch Way. It says project maximizes bulk and scale by trying to step back the building from the right of way. And it's been changed from minimize to maximize. So I'm confused by that. And I wish someone would clarify.
Or minimize would.
You know what? I have a question mark. Thank you for bringing that up. I also have a question mark about that.
And this is Kathleen Neal. That may be that I misunderstood Bert's notes. So yeah, it is a question of how you want to phrase that. I understand both approaches. If you say minimize, it's from our point of view. And if you say maximize,
Right.
It's from the client, the applicant's point of view.
Right. That's what the conclusion I came to.
So it says applicant provided a presentation on the proposed project and discussed details related to project. So I understand that it could be a point of view thing, but I have never heard someone come in and say, we're trying to maximize bulk and
agree.
scale.
I had a big
Ever.
mark next to that. I think it should be, I mean,
Minimum.
it definitely should be minimized. The project minimizes by trying to step back the building from the right of way. That's
Right, yes.
the thing that makes
Well, that was in the first. Bert's
Yeah, it was
comment
actually
was only-
changed from minimize to maximize. So I think we just
No.
do need to make that
we need
change.
to change it back.
Yeah, Bert's comment was only to add an S, to the verb form.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Minimizes.
I was,
So
okay.
I
All
did-
right.
So this is
Okay.
Kathleen Neal again. Jane, can I ask a question about your comment?
Back with the other one.
Yes, the original one with regard to the prior to COVID statement.
Sure.
So I have no strong opinion on how you phrase it, but I do have a question with regard to the fact that I recall all those years sitting at the rec center, and even though maybe it wasn't required that anyone bring drawings, almost always the applicant would bring drawings, because otherwise I noticed the board wouldn't have anything to review. So I'm a little confused why we're even emphasizing current requirements, although I do understand the sensitivity of an applicant not wanting their plans on the internet. And I'm completely supportive of that. But I don't know why we would want to emphasize that plans are not necessary, because it's almost like a confusing message to an applicant that, oh, just come in with this information and we'll be able to make a determination. And,
Okay, well, here's the thing. What I'm emphasizing is the requirement. That is all I'm emphasizing in this. It doesn't mean that, and I know Marlon, they're encouraged and all of that, but that's been the requirement. It's just.
could I suggest a different phrasing then, that we don't put words into that paragraph, that bullet item, but rather that we say, Chair Potter mentioned concerns that were expressed about applicants not providing review materials ahead of the meeting and clarified, we'll take out the only there, and clarified that the applicant project information form was required, and leave it at that. We don't even have to go into the question of only.
Well, or the question of only of COVID. Because
Right.
Right,
we can-
I think
we-
that's the thing I'm interested in, is that
it
we're
doesn't-
attributing something to the pandemic that is not actually attributable to the
Exactly,
pandemic.
that's why I'm saying is the only requirement, and has always been the only requirement.
Yes, and so we would delete everything after the word required. It would be a period, and we would take out since prior to COVID.
I'm fine with the substance of this. I'm afraid of the result. When I don't get plans in advance so that I can look at the plans when I look at the property, I am very hesitant to vote for the applicant's project. So I don't want us to put out something that is going to delay the applicant by a month. Now, I think where we're going is absolutely accurate, but I worry about that.
Well, I understand that. I just want the facts stated here. And
And,
those-
and
and
would that
also-
work for you, Jane, if we just removed the COVID reference and took out the only and we left
That's
in that
fine.
that's what's
That's fine.
required?
That's fine.
Okay.
And we do have to assume that the applicant is going to do what is in his or her best interest.
Exactly.
Well, could we add a phrase that says, that it's not required, but highly recommended?
I think they know that. I mean,
Well, I
we,
do, but
No.
that emphasizes, I don't know.
Marlon, do you have any comments? I mean,
Just echoing some of the comments here, whenever I deal with the applicants, I always highly recommend that they provide as much information up front that the board members and the public can review the materials prior to the meeting. At the meeting, the same materials are presented again to the public, so everyone's getting the information at the same time. And the applicants, I would give them credit that they would act in their best interest to provide the information to inform and make the board well informed so that they can get a positive result at the hearing. Now, in some instances, some applicants have reserved the right to provide some of that information up front due to copyright issues and some experiences in the past. That's well within their right. However, at the meeting, all the information is presented at the same time to the board and the public. So there isn't any fault in there. But again, they run the risk of not providing that information up front and having the board be informed and the public prior to the meeting.
Okay, I'm fine with, thanks, Marlon. I'm fine with what you said, Kathleen. And I don't think this whole thing is going to be read by people who want to apply.
So we just delete the last sentence?
I would doubt if 5 people, 2 people, anybody but us reads the minutes, but that could be different. So it's not going to discourage anybody to state the facts here. So.
No, Suzanne, I think we're just going to take out the 2 occurrences of the word only and the 3 words prior to COVID, with a period after the word required. So then it would read, ahead of the meeting and clarified that the applicant project information form was required, period.
Oh, all right, well.
No judgment, no saying what you have to have or don't have to have to make it more streamlined.
Only requirement. I want that in.
Oh, you want the word only before requirement?
Yeah.
Well, but isn't it just sufficient to say requirement, that you don't have to have an adverb there saying only?
In the interest of going on with the meeting, that's fine.
Okay, thank you. Great.
Yeah, so that was my comment. I thought that's what she meant.
Okay,
That it
let's,
was only required.
Okay.
Was not required prior to
Okay.
Wait a minute, now I'm.
Okay. let's just leave out COVID. Let's just go with Kathleen, what Kathleen said. Let's go on to board member comment and staff liaison comment. Okay, everybody. Oh, no, we need to approve the minute. Anybody want
So
to turn?
moved.
Bill,
I move that we approve the minutes.
as amended.
Yes.
Okay,
Second,
I seconded. Okay, all those in favor.
aye.
I
Thank you. I have a comment about the email that I sent last week in the discussion about, that was at the PDO or PRC, about combining the committees, their committee and our committee. And what I'm going to say is there was a very short discussion. Barely, it was only one person pretty much discussing it. The chair brought it forward because he was asked to, and they both ended the discussion with, this has a snowball's chance in hell to be completed, to be done. So that's where I'd like to end. So that's my comment. So I see no reason to discuss any kind of strategy or any kind of response or anything at all. Anybody else?
Yes,
have a
discussion was totally shut down.
Yeah, totally shut down. Okay. Anybody else? Marlon,
Madam Chair, I had something to report if there weren't any other board members that wanted to offer any reports.
I'm sorry, what?
Oh, I have something to report, but I'd like to let any of the other board members provide their reports prior to mine.
Okay,
Okay, so I'll go. I just want to let the board members know that yesterday the City Council approved on consent to terminate the state of emergency on February 28th, which coincides with the governor's expiration of the code, of the state of emergency. So that means we'll be returning to public in-person meetings. The Brown Act does have standing provisions or requirements for hosting virtual meetings, or as they call teleconference meetings. But most notably, they require that any board member who wishes to attend a meeting virtually or via teleconference has to provide their address and have that address open, accessible to the public, and to allow the public to make comment at that teleconference location. So that can include private home addresses, home offices, your work office, anywhere that a board member is attending the meeting virtually, that would be considered a teleconference location. So obviously that poses some issues with people wanting to meet virtually, but those are the standing requirements. That's one of the main standing requirements for allowing virtual meetings under the Brown Act. So given the return to in-person meetings, I have worked with the La Jolla Recreation Center director to reserve our meetings at the auditorium in the Recreation Center. I did provide the copy of the permit and the meeting times and dates to the board members to reserve our meetings there. And please let me know if there are any conflicts with the time, because I think it may, Bert had mentioned, board member Lazaro had mentioned that we couldn't meet as early as 10 o'clock in the past. However, the times I did go over the times with the center director, and they went ahead and approved our meeting times. So we would be meeting there from 10 to 12 unless there are some adjustments to the schedule. And we could work with them to do that as well.
I have a comment about that. Bert, do you need the meetings to start at 10?
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
I only raised the question
No,
because
I'm just asking because
I don't need it, but I certainly prefer it. I only asked the question because when we met on Monday at the La Jolla Rec Center, we didn't start until 11, and I was told that the reason that we didn't start until 11 was that the facility wasn't open until then.
Right, I remember all
So
that.
I'm delighted to be able to meet beginning at 10. But I have a question for Marlon about the first part of his announcement.
Yeah.
So the implication of what you just said, it seems to me, is that you will be there at each meeting, or someone will be there from the city at each meeting with a computer and a Zoom address, or at least each meeting where anyone has indicated in advance to you that they cannot be present. Am I reading that correctly?
Not quite. Starting in March, we'll return to in-person meetings just like we used to meet back in the day prior to COVID in person at the rec center. Now, when you mentioned me being there with a computer and Zoom access and all that good stuff, that's if the board decides to hold a virtual meeting or no, I'll take that, a hybrid meeting, whereas there would be, the members would be physically located in the La Jolla Rec Center and wishes to live stream or broadcast our meeting and to allow the public to observe our meeting remotely and to provide real-time comment on any items on board. That's if we decide to do that. Of course, there's, technology, is that available at the rec center? I don't believe it is. So then that is a consideration that the board would have to take it to discuss in order to be able to allow a hybrid meeting. Now, in relation to a board member attending the meeting virtually, starting March 1st, if any one of the board members want to attend the meeting virtually, then we would have to agree to have we would have to set up the virtual meeting, and that board member who wants to attend the meeting virtually would need to have their address posted along with the agenda when that agenda goes out 72 hours in advance. And that location of that board member is a teleconference location where the public can attend that specific location and provide comment at that location as well. So that could be, like I said, could be at your home office, could be at your work office, could be some other location. Like say if you are traveling and you're in a hotel, that location has to be accessible to the public and they can be there right with you making comment on any item on the agenda.
Well, let me be more specific. We have had a problem with summer meetings because of people's vacation. When there were only 4 board members. Now that there's 6 board members, I hope that that will not be a problem, but let's assume that we're in a situation where 3 board members happen to be out of San Diego on the 3rd Wednesday of the month. We could still have a meeting remotely if the board votes to do that. Am I following you?
And if each of those, say, board members who are attending remotely provides their addresses ahead of time where they're going to be having the meeting, holding their own, virtual access to the meeting, those have to be public. So anyone can roll up to their location, say, I'm here for the meeting, and, be right there with you in that virtual meeting.
Okay, so anybody who is going to have to miss a meeting and who wants to participate remotely has to let you know before the agenda goes out.
That's correct. Yeah, it needs to be posted with the agenda.
Thank you, Marlon. Do we have any
I
public?
have a question.
Wait.
Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Bill,
Yes,
were you, I thought you were talking to your computer there.
no, I got my hand up.
Oh, you got the hand up. Okay, thank you.
So,
And
Marlon,
Kathleen
what
has
you're
her hand
saying,
up.
what you're saying, if I'm hiking in France and it's 10 a.m. here and it's 8 o'clock over there, I can be on a meeting. I just have to let the people in the hotel know they can join the meeting. Or, I'm being facetious that way. But
Well, your that special case wouldn't count because you're out of the jurisdiction of the city of San Diego. You're in France, so you wouldn't be able to do that.
And why would you want to?
Yeah, you're on vacation.
Well, because these meetings are
No.
enjoyable.
Well, I would
No, but if you're,
want to, if my vote was needed to
yeah,
be a quorum. I don't want to put
Okay,
applicants off for a month.
I think we have never, I don't think in the summer, we've changed meetings times, but not that much. And we've never not had a meeting in the summer,
okay.
much to the fact that I would like to adjourn in August, because it's gonna be HELL getting down to La Jolla at 10 o'clock all summer long, okay? Okay, Kathleen?
Thank you. My question is to Marlon. So Marlon, I don't know that the rec center has a projector, but I know the library has a projector. And my question is, if we end up getting submissions that are electronic, which is possible because of the new Acela program, would we be able to have a projector? Because I know the room we're meeting in has a screen. So could you confirm, or would you let me know if you would like me to try to talk to the library about obtaining a projector? Because I kind of think that might be a benefit for the public as well as for us, because I remember sitting there and having people page through paper, and it was always hard for people in the audience to really see what was going on.
Oh, that's a good point, Kathleen. So the center director did ask me if we needed a projector. And I believe, so with that question, I believe that they would be able to provide it. My department also has a projector, so I could bring a projector if one was needed. We also asked the applicant too to bring their presentation materials, have that backup just in case something happens. So they typically in the past, prior to COVID, when we were meeting there and they were presenting, the applicants would bring a projector as well. So I think we're covered on 3 fronts there.
Thank you.
Andrea, did you have?
Phil addressed my question. Because you know very well where I am in August, so.
Exactly.
Thank you.
And that's just one of you this time. So we don't all have to be here. But anyway, okay, do we have any non-agenda public comment? Marlon?
I have not received any non-agenda public comment in advance of the meeting, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Okay. I assume you are here for the Prestwick item, Mr. Mosco. Your name left before I could read it. Moscoso.
Yes.
Okay, well, thank you for patiently waiting.
No.
You're doing an 8559 Prestwick Drive, and this is an existing 1-story single-family dwelling, and you're asking for a recommendation that the project is minor in scope. So you may take it away now with all your findings.
So, do I
Ramon,
share my?
you can go ahead and share your screen. Yeah, I already allowed you to be able to do that.
Oh, okay. Let me do that. There you go. Okay, here we go.
Okay, we're seeing it.
I don't know. Like this? Do you see? you see it very small, or I don't know why is it like this?
It is very small.
Single page.
That's better.
I don't know why it just gets cut off, but
Are you
it's
using PowerPoint, Ramon?
this is a PDF. I do have the PowerPoint as well.
I think if you go to the top menu bar where it says view, there should be an option for full screen. And if you pick that, it should maximize.
Not with this one, because me así con me toda la pantalla.
Or
On
maybe
PowerPoint?
window, where it says window. At the top.
Let me try the PowerPoint. One second, it's refreshing right here. What the?
Oh yeah, there it is, moving over. Okay, and then if you,
Is that better? Or but this is the PowerPoint. Play for what?
That is much better.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, try that view button. Yeah, click on that view button, and I think you might be able to even get it larger.
I think it's the slide layout button that he has to hit, Marlon.
Mhm.
It went to the side.
Yeah, so
Oh, why? ¿Cómo quito esto? Ah. Why does it switch to my other monitor? Well, let me change the. My God.
there you go.
You see it?
Yeah.
I don't know why when I put like play, like it goes to my other screen. I have two screens. I don't know why. The full screen goes on one side. Okay, let me see if I can manage this now. William, no me está funcionando esto. It's not working for me. Let me see if I can do this. Manches. Do you see it now, or is that better for you? Hello?
We can see it.
Yeah, okay. So it's an existing single one-story residence. And the owner didn't want to go through the coastal commission process, so we decided to keep 50% of the exterior walls, which always makes it a little tough for designing because some other walls all of a sudden they get protected. The project, where's the your tell sheet? Lila, el tell sheet. As you can see, the gray area is the addition portion of it, and the total dwelling will be 5,023 square feet. In front of the garage, we did a small. This is supposed to be remain the same, but I did a little small pop out because we are allowed to touch anything above the existing top plates, and that's what I'm doing. So it's kind of open on the sides. What else? I think there was an existing. There was an existing kind of a garden room, sunroom, and that was demolished. I'm not sure that even had any building permits. So we wanted to respect. I mean, even though I don't think we're blocking any views, we wanted to respect the scale of the project and keep it at the same one story. We are going with taller roofs. With let's see. And on one side of the house, on the left side of the house, we are using a 4-foot setback. We did a quick study where I think there's a few properties that are, one of them is actually a 3.7 and 3.8, 4 feet 2. So on one side we did leave it at 4 feet, and I believe on the other side we have a 15-foot setback on one side. And I mean, one of the main reasons why, because on the right side, we are keeping most of that wall. for to avoid coastal. Here's the demo plan. It was enclosed, more of a sunroom, existing covered patio, that we decided to just remove it. What else can I say about this? Here you can see the proposed floor plan. We still kept only it actually was a 3-car garage, and we it was a small 3-car garage, but we reduced it to a 2-car garage. And a portion of it we added a laundry room on that side. The floor plan is pretty, you know, I think works pretty well, but and it has more of an open feel. What else can I say about the floor plan? Do you want me to explain every room, or I mean just kind of like the idea? Here's some of the elevations, front elevation. This will be the one at the bottom will be the southeast, which is the rear elevation. The front has pitch roofs of 812. Inside, some of the areas are vaulted. I tried to modernize, you know, kind of modernize the feel of the architectural style a little bit. Let me see here. Here you can see some of the side elevations. And this is how it really looks like now. We have a brick veneer finish in most of the front of the house. In the bottom, just to lower the expense, we decided to go with a same color tone but stucco in areas that you wouldn't be able to see from the public view. And the rest is more of a dark gray chocolate siding, vertical siding. Here's a pop out on the garage just to kind of to get away from that big flat facade. I mean, I like to break things a little bit more, so that's the reason we added this pop out inside of the garage, in front of the garage, which is only touching the from the top plate up. That's where it's actually being attached to the building, but the rest, the ones in the front, are more like columns. Here's another shot. Here's the rear. The rear. One side, that's the left side. And there's some image. That's pretty much what I have. Yep. I'm complete with the presentation.
Oops, sorry.
That's okay.
Bocce, stop, sorry. I know it's boring for you. Sorry. Questions and comments from the board? Okay. Bill.
Okay. I'm new at this, so bear with me. But what is the building coverage, the footprint coverage of the building versus the lot? What percentage?
Wait, let me check that right now. 1 second.
Because to me, it looks like the building takes more than 50% of the lot. And according to the municipal code, if your ceiling height or the roof height is less than 32 feet, you're only allowed up to 50%. And
lot coverage.
this is not the FAR. This is just the.
No, I understand that
Your
lot
FAR
coverage. We're allowed to go, I believe, according to us, 60%.
I'm looking at, maybe I have the wrong plans with the plans.
Can I clarify that 30, there's a 30% requirement in the PDO for landscaping, but Phil's question has to do with the actual physical structure covering the lot.
And
I
in the
believe.
And,
PDO, that, in the PDO, that's 60%, I think.
50.
Yeah, and we're
60.
so that's so the allow will be 7. So my allow will be 7,000, almost 7,300, and we're only covering about for store coverage about 6,000. 6,000. I'm sorry. Yeah, about 6,000 square feet.
How big is the lot?
Last
The lot
12,000.
is 12,162,
Oh.
and including the first floor and including the garage is I'm covering 5,446. And if I do include the cover patio, it's another 318, so about 5,800 square feet. But the actual building is less than 5,500. I'm allowed to cover 7,300.
Yeah.
So I'm
Could you
about
clarify,
almost
your
2,000.
drawings show imperviousness, an impervious area of 8,303. Could you discuss how the impervious is different from what we're discussing here? Thank you.
My impervious. Where do I show that on my impervious?
It's on your drawings. Your plot plan.
Yeah, I'm gonna go there right now. Well, the impervious will be the including the hard surface, like my whole pad in the back. I mean, the swimming pool. And some of this area that you see with pavers in the back. I'm including the driveway. I'm including the entrance to the house. That's all pavers. And this other area here outside one of the bedrooms that has a total of that amount of impervious areas.
But you don't have actual numbers on that then?
Oh, what's the number of my total?
Well, we have from the plot plans that it's 8,303 impervious, but I wondered if you could address the square footage for what Phil Weiss asked you for.
I'm confused because I thought he asked me for the actual structural coverage, which I'm complying. I mean, I have less than 2,000 square feet, but the impervious will be a different story, correct? I mean, impervious is also is my roof area, my patios, and everything. That's a different question.
Yes, I'm only pointing out the
Well,
impervious
I'm
because it's
confused.
on your plot plan. I was wondering if you maybe
Yeah.
had more details besides what's presented there.
Details regarding what? Because so the 8,000 square feet impervious areas, I mean, includes the building, includes any hardscape patios, a driveway. So I'm letting you know that I have about 8,000 square foot of impervious areas, including the building. Now the actual coverage of the building in relation to the lot, I'm only covering. What did I say? So my allowable is 7,300, and I'm covering about 5,500. So almost 2,000 less than what I mean. I could actually build 2,000 square feet. I don't know how, but 2,000 square feet more. So I'm complying with the structural coverage to answer that question.
Is
Yeah.
it?
Did that answer your question, Phil, or did you have a different?
Well, I don't, gee, after what happened to me the other night, I'm the last person to make an issue. But I'm looking at the municipal code and it's dated October 2022. It says lot coverage. If the building height is below 52 feet, the maximum percentage coverage is 50%. I'm just looking at this black and white. So now, to me, a garage is part of the building, you know,
Correct.
especially this type of building. And it just looks to me like this structure is more than 50% of the lot size.
Well,
Certainly,
you would. Yeah.
I mean, I'm just looking at the code and And I don't know. I'm just bringing up this issue.
Andrea, please, go ahead.
So this is all, these questions are interesting questions, but actually what is before us is to make a determination whether or not this can be considered a minor. And I would say that in multiple ways, this does not meet any type of exception to be considered a minor project. So I think the increase in square footage is way beyond the 10%. I think the change in some of the setbacks, again, pretty significant. So I would like us to focus our concentration on what we are being asked, which is, could this be considered a minor? And I think that might help us get, finish this conversation.
Could I follow up on what Andrea said?
Sure.
Thank you. So I will tell you that I have looked at your exhibit 001 and you've called out 18 properties. I don't see any sign that that's a 300 radius, but it doesn't have to be at this point. Nonetheless, if you did move to major, you would have to look at that. And when I look at your exhibit 001, 18 of the 18 houses, there's really only 3 that have anything near that narrow of a side setback that you've considered I believe you're calling it the left side setback with the pop-out bay window area. That bay area window is actually in violation of the PDO, which would require a 3-foot, 3 foot is what you're saying on your drawings, and it would require a 4-foot setback. Having said that, even if you took away that bay window, you would still be faced with the concern that Andrea voiced, which is, most of the adjacent properties don't have that narrow of a side setback where you're putting in the 4-foot side setback. That's not the average for the area you're involved in. I think you've been maybe a little too anxious to move to that 4-foot or 3-foot for the bay window. And I would have a serious concern because that side of the house is right next to 8549, which though they do not have some of the larger setbacks, theirs is maybe in the 5-foot range, I believe, according to your exhibit. That still means that you have a long stretch that's very, very close to the adjacent property. Now, if you didn't have the bay window, we could, have to say maybe it's still within the PDO, but it's way, way closer than what I would actually like to see, unless that adjacent neighbor gave you a letter saying that they had no problem with the fact that the 2 houses were so close in proximity along that property line. So, I'm just trying to be constructive on going forward. I don't think I would be able to support this as a minor for the reasons that Andrea said. But if you go back and you were working this over, I would say to you that is one of my greatest concerns, even above how much square footage you're adding, is that you're getting just so close to the property line on that left side. Thank you.
I knew that was going to be of an issue, and I don't have so you will be satisfied with a letter from the neighbor if he agrees, then am I okay? And that's one question. And okay, then why even bother the neighbor then?
Well, now don't put words in my mouth. I didn't say we would agree if the neighbor gave you a letter. I said if you came back to us as a major, not because it is a pretty big increase in square footage, there would still be, for me as a voting board member, even under a coastal permit, I would have concerns about the fact that the house is so close. But it is, if you came back and it was 4 feet, it would be really hard to give you a problem on that, because the PDO does say you have to have that 4-foot, side property setback.
Because from what I read regarding the setbacks, it doesn't even say I don't think, maybe I'm wrong, but I don't think it said the average. It just says within the vicinity.
No, you
That-
are
that's all
correct.
I-
It does not refer to an average. You are correct.
But
But
no
but
more
it
than-
does
but not-
refer
no
to the
less than 4
bulk and
feet.
scale and the positioning of the house. So the side setback can be considered one of those things that we use to try to judge bulk and scale, which is a part of the PDO.
Would 5 feet be something that you would be, I mean, you guys would be more satisfied?
If I may say, I think there are other aspects to the idea of you are coming to ask for a recommendation to say that your project is minor in scope. So
Uh-huh.
let's get back to that question.
Okay.
And let's have, I think we need to make a motion and because unless somebody else wants to speak on it.
Madam Chair, before we get beyond clarifying questions and then more into the deep discussion of the project, just wanted to let the advisory board know that we do not have any public comment or anyone attending our meeting who wishes to provide any public testimony on this project.
Thank you, Marlon. Okay, do we have a motion?
Well, I want to,
Madam Chair,
Yes, Bert.
I want to add a couple of additional problems to the absolutely disqualifying problems that have just been set forth. The proposed new construction changes the front of the house from a setback on half of the house to a close setback on all of the house. I think that's a problem that the applicant needs to deal with. The second problem is that the applicant has not shown us what the relationship of this proposed house would be to the two houses on either side and to the houses behind, if there are any. So in addition, it's not clear that the proposed construction will not increase the height of the building. And the applicant has not shown us a picture of the building as it sits, but it looks to me as though the height of the building, whatever it currently may be, under the new construction is going to be the full width of the building, not a partial width of the building. So I would move, Madam Chair, that we recommend that this project not be classified as a minor project.
Neil seconds the motion. Do you need the reasons why, Madam Chair?
You're muted, Jane.
The last time we made a motion like this, that it was actually made by you, Bert, was motion to not recommend the project as a minor project. Just so we get the wording kind of consistent, because then at that time we went through, but it's a major project or say so. So
Yeah,
I'm changing it to be
I think that my previous motion was probably not as clear as it might have been. I think we are positively recommending that this project not be classified as a major project.
Minor.
If you think it appropriate, I would be happy to add, because of the size of the addition and the reduction of setback.
what we have done in the past is put comments which have already been made in the comment section, but the motion is usually because the question before us is this a minor project? Just to say not recommended as a minor project and not get major into it or any of that, because if it's not a minor, it's going to be a major. Yeah. Just being consistent with previous, and we can say in general, and we've done this before many times, due to bulk and scale. I mean, just something in general like that, which I think pretty much sums it up. I mean, there's a lot of details here, but it's pretty much sums it up. But
I think bulk and scale is not a popular concept. And I think more specific, as Bert said, because of size of the addition and the increase in the setback.
so there's nothing else.
Right, if we say bulk and scale, that's vague and not too helpful to staff or anybody else.
Right, but we will have the comments in it. Okay. Bert, make your motion again. I would like it to be consistent when we're saying not recommend the project as a minor, however, and then you can add what you want.
I move that we recommend that this project not be classified as a minor project because of the size of the addition and the decrease in setback.
Great.
And that's fine. My second stand.
Okay. Let's take a vote on that motion. All those in favor, raise your hand.
Aye.
Aye.
I,
I don't see anybody opposed, so
6,
Okay.
or is it 501? Is Jane, do you vote, or
no, I always vote. I don't know.
so it's
There's
600?
no, but I always vote. I guess.
I
That's,
don't know.
that's
when
the way the
chair is-
tradition has been, but anyway. It's
I don't know when the chair is supposed to abstain, but that's, all right.
I think that was Dan's preference, the prior chair's preference to do that. I don't think there's any requirement anywhere that Jane abstain. It was, I think, a
I had
personal preference.
abstained for the last 2 years. We would never have had a vote, right?
Yeah.
Okay, we wouldn't have passed one
Oh.
single thing.
So true.
That's right, I guess, yeah.
Uh-huh.
I don't know about Robert's rules anyway, okay.
All right, let's go on. I think we hopefully helped you out with our views on this, sir. And thank you for your presentation. And good luck to you. Probably.
So I'm sorry, what's the next step? So I'll have to submit for a major, or I'm still a little lost.
The next step is the recommendation goes back to the city and they figure out what they want to do, basically.
Oh, the city. Do we receive a letter? How do I get that final?
Get it. Marlon, do you want to say anything?
Right, so we typically the recommendation of this advisory board is put in their minutes, and that's forwarded to the city or development services when the minutes are approved at the following meeting. However, if your project manager requires an account of the vote or the recommendation earlier than that, I can provide them with a statement. So the next step would be for development services to take the input from the advisory board and then make their determination, because they're the final determiner and make the official determination on the project. So you would just have to wait on them.
Ours is just a recommendation.
That's right. Mhm.
So it
Okay.
goes back to the city, and you don't have to worry about, they'll get the input. So
I'll be honest, it's kind of hard. I mean, to answer. I mean, one of the comments. I mean, if I compare it to the buildings next door, if I'm too concerned about that, I mean, everything so old. I mean, some of the things are very old in a very small scale. But I've seen most of the new constructions around there. Some of them are like huge, very modern. That I don't think they even fit within the community. But I mean, I mean, there's a lot of interesting projects with different styles around there, but I'll take in consideration what you just provided, and I'll see what happens on the next presentation, if any.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
I know it's a difficult.
As always is. No, I'm used to it. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Bye-bye.
Okay. All right.
Can I make a little comment?
Sure.
I just want to say that we have to remember that we're dealing with the plan district ordinance, which often overrules some of the other code sections
That's true.
regarding,
Yeah.
you know, setbacks and
Right.
building lot coverage, and we're looking more at items like, you know, comparison with the surrounding projects and so forth. So, but this is an issue with the PDO that we have to sort of compromise. But we have to do, you know, remember, we're dealing with the PDO, so.
Thank you, Suzanne. That's a good point. I was thinking of that earlier, but I didn't get a chance to say it. So,
Yeah, it's,
Kathleen,
Jane, it's Kathleen. I'd like to follow up on what Suzanne says, if it's helpful to Phil, and that is that in the cases where the PDO overrides the municipal code, those are called out in the municipal code within the PDO, almost in the very beginning of it. So you can see in that section where it says that it defers either to the municipal code or that it is more described later in the PDO, but that's a kind of a clarifying section, you know, that gives you an idea of which parts of the municipal code the PDO defers to in a pretty quick way. Thank you.
thank you, Kathleen. Let's go on to item 7. This is the board discussion on information bulletin 621, which of course is about minor additions. And we're wanting to, well, and Bert's going to lead the discussion and has provided us with a copy of 621, which I'm sure we all have on hand.
Okay, so I think the question is, how do we interpret information bulletin 621? Well, we just made a decision under information bulletin 621. What criteria did we use?
And if I may, board members, add a little bit more background or just, you know, a recollection of our last meeting. I think there was some question about when the projects come before the advisory board for review. And I had mentioned that it's pretty obvious that the increase in floor area of 10% by 10% is the given trigger. However, in my correspondence with DSD staff, they had confirmed that, and they also mentioned that they may refer projects to the advisory board if any of the criteria in information bulletin 621 was in question. But I think board member Lazaro had mentioned wanting to see all the projects if there was a question with that criteria. And so I think the discussion was also going to revolve around if that is what the advisory board's position and understanding or desired understanding of the information bulletin, and you would put a letter together and provide that to development services.
Thank you, Marlon. That is my recollection too.
So I just using the attachment, I know I have the full thing someplace else, but this is what was attached to the agenda. We could take the project we just reviewed and look at the review criteria and immediately see that members of this committee brought up some of these areas where the project did not conform. So including increases in height from existing development on site, increases in lot coverage, this was a very good project for us to look at right before this conversation. Because I think that, and we know when we decide to recommend something as a minor, it does depend a lot on the part of the shores it's located in. I guess I'm thinking a lot about some of the properties that are east of La Jolla Shores Drive, where they've got huge lot sizes and it's literally not visible. There's not a lot of argument about views. And yes, we are quite liberal with some of these projects that come to us. But in this case, this project, the one we just reviewed, already had a lot of red flags before we even heard the presentation. I mean, just looking at the materials that we were given and also going to see the site, is that building in need of updating? Absolutely. There's no question about that. We didn't even have to talk about that. But it is not, I feel like we're doing a good job when we let these red flags guide our decision making.
Mhm.
Well, and frankly, in my opinion, just good common sense says there's nothing minor you could do with that house that's gonna make it livable, okay? So it has, I mean, just, you know, that's common sense, but anyway.
Well, if you recall, we tried to amend the PDO in this last plan update to give some more guidelines where, you know, something could be considered as a minor. I have to find my emails on that, and it was roundly turned down by the planning department, our code suggestion. So and it was actually about 2 years ago, Kathleen and I talked to Gary Geiler, and he suggested that we try to amend the PDO in some way to make it more clear as to, you know, certain things that are very clearly could be a minor. So we've tried to do this, and the upshot was from planning was that possibly they would try to make the IB 621 more clear. It seems, I don't know, rather than changing the code. So
I think we need to clarify the point of our discussion here.
What problem are we trying to solve?
Right. I mean, and this came from, I don't know, Bert, Kathleen originally, and Sue and all of us, but especially if we're going to write a letter, we need to say, well, what are we going to write a letter about? So Bert.
I'm going to try to find my emails on this because I think we
had that.
I covered a lot of that.
And board members, if I may, again, my recollection and also looking at the recording, our discussion prior to, well, the discussion that we had last meeting dealt around projects that we did not, or the advisory board did not get an opportunity to review. And so there was a lot of question about how did that project get, you know, passed through without us reviewing. There were some clear issues that are reflected in the Bulletin 621 that should have been commented on. So I think, I guess maybe what we're trying to get around to is indicating that all the criteria in 621 should be a trigger if a project doesn't meet it. So it's not so much that DSD may refer the projects to the advisory board, but if there is any non-conformance with any of that criteria, then it does go to the advisory board. So I think that was kind of what some of the discussion was centered around at the last meeting.
Historical stuff again. We asked years ago, Sue, I'm sure you remember this. Probably 10 years ago, we asked for every project in the shores to come before our committee. Everyone that was even just kind of what you're saying now. And then the whoever figures this stuff out kind of backed off, and now here we are again. So it's just sort of another kick in the butt thing to me.
Have we done any analysis to see if the projects that we are concerned about that did not come to the board were considered minor? I'm curious about that.
I think that would be difficult to do, Andrea, just because I think sometimes when they come to us, they still remain minor, but they change. So it would be hard to analyze data where you would not be able to control the variable. Like if we knew for a fact that something came to us and was continued exactly as we had referred against, I think we would find that was a very small number.
So you're saying that
That all you'd have
we're
to have
talking
is an
about what's
applicant
referred
go
to us.
away.
I'm saying, can we find out if things that we notice in the neighborhood, oh, I never saw that. We can't find out whether or not those projects are being treated as minor versus major?
We can't, I think it would be hard to get the data on that. It would be much easier to get the data from the La Jolla Community Planning Association on their review just of what types of developments have gone through the city in what ways. Meaning
we
mostly
have.
that's process two, but on occasion they have pointed out situations at CPA where something that went process one maybe shouldn't have, not so much right now, but certainly in the past. I'm just saying that when you look at major and minor and what's heard in front of this group, all an applicant has to do is leave the meeting and change it slightly in a way they would still be able to present to DSD that this was a legitimately a minor project. I just think it would be hard to clarify all that data and come up with a meaningful meaningful understanding of what the city is doing versus what we're recommending. But that's just my opinion.
I mean, there's a doozy on the hill right now that's not come through anyone. And it's got, you can see it from everywhere. It's a Calle del Oro. It's that little alleyway on Calle. It's the end of that dog leg on Calle del Oro that, well, I mean, there's a lot of them. They seem to squeak through this 10%, especially if it's a large house to begin with. So what we have is, like, one of the problems is that you have a very large house, which, you know, you can easily squeak by with, you know, saying it's less than 10%, whereas you have a very small house that if you add, you know, 100 square feet, it's over 10%, you know, and like the one we're talking about, you know, it's kind of hard to get, you know, have a remodel that's under 10%. So I don't know if there was some way to, and I don't know how projects just totally, giant projects just totally don't get, especially past the advisory board, because, you know, from the community planning group, it's recommended, but they don't have to come to the community planning group. But as we found out about a year ago, that most projects do have to get a vote from the advisory board. So there's still some that's don't come and slip by us.
So, yes, would somebody like to take a stab at summarizing what we want to say in this letter?
I'm just going to say bare bones. Let's say that we ask DSD to look at Information Bulletin 621 as a fact that they should be referring to us, not that they may be referring to us, projects that in any way, you know, do not conform with either the 10% or the criteria, you know, like the community conformity or setbacks or FAR, parking view corridors, Vulcan scale, articulation, you know, like lot coverage. I mean, we could go into the details if we wanted to, but mostly I think the letter just has to start out saying, we don't want it to be DSD may recommend to us. Yeah. We want it to be DSD shall recommend to us.
And I like straightforward things like in this, as well as the minutes and anything else. So anything straightforward is as that, and that's all we want. And so does everybody agree with that premise?
Well,
Yes.
item number 3 Roman numeral 3, it says projects that increase floor area ratio will require input.
Well, then we can point that out in the letter, that we're not getting it. So, but that's what we want. And so that's, we can refer their own bulletin to them.
I guess what we were trying to do was simplify, try to decrease the number of things that come before, some of the ones that we
Increase or decrease? You want to increase?
we want to give staff a little more leeway
No,
in
I thought we
declaring,
were-
well,
no,
yeah, I mean,
no.
I don't know. I mean, I'm trying to, be helpful to staff, because if they have to require, this way, we're saying, we want everything. I mean, many things to come before us and maybe we could.
Well, okay, this is, with all due respect, the total opposite of what this discussion started with, this discussion, that we don't get enough of these.
Yeah, it's,
I mean, so we need to decide if we want more or less, and I thought we wanted more.
we would want more, but maybe, I don't know. Yeah,
I remember even before we did the committee through the CPA that everybody thought, of the architects that we talked to before we actually started the ad hoc, all of the architects would always, the ones who were honest, would say, if it was not going to be a minor if it was over 10% square footage increase in the dwelling space, and it was not going to be minor if they added a second story. That was just a knee-jerk reaction from most of the architects, if they were being honest, the ones who didn't really want to push the envelope. I kind of think, in a way, I know what Suzanne's saying. I don't want DSD to feel like we're going to beat them with a stick if they don't do everything we tell them, to the point where people in our own neighborhood feel like they never have a chance to get a process 1 permit. But I do understand that maybe the letter should be more specific of what it is that we think are important criteria, more than simply echoing what's already in 621, because I think we can all say 621 and DSD are not cohabiting well.
yeah, I mean, sometimes a project can be over 10%, but it can definitely still be considered minor.
Right.
And where do we decide?
It's kind of weird. We know it when we see it. That's kind of, I
Yeah.
mean, in a weird way, we do. But I do think that it does make a difference when it's hard for us to accept when we see something that is definitely a major project that never came to this group. That is hard, and it's hard to understand how those decisions get made. But I would say that I do respect development services. I do think they're trying to do the right thing. I think people do see us as a gateway to saving money and time. So why not try, right? I think that's, why not? I'd want my architect to do the same thing, right? If I were in that situation, if I was able to do that, I would want to do that. So I see why people try for it. But again, this guy today, he had to ask, well, what happens now? He actually did not understand. So I think the more we can clarify what the process is, the better. And if that's to say we need to see more projects, or we need to tell people exactly what it means when we make a recommendation for or against something being minor, seems to me these days that's almost the bulk of what we see, are people trying to be considered minor. I mean, we could go back through agendas, but that seems to be sort of our bread and butter because we're the only group that's doing that.
Right. And like this gentleman today and the people in November who had the the last one we denied in November that had this
Oh, my God.
like 13 pools going down a hillside and all that. You know, they were, I don't think they knew, you know, we deal so much of the time with these people that have been around for 30 years and they know, and sometimes they're trying to get it through anyway, but they know the deal. But it's different when somebody just has no experience. So,
Well, there's a big confusion with the 50% rule and our on the PDO. So there's 50% rule in everywhere but La Jolla Shores allows some of these really egregious, you know, major additions.
right.
Whereas, you know, we can override that with this major minor. So, you know, a lot of architects, you know, get confused by that, but it's confusing to us. I mean, to me, the 50% rule, because they say, oh, well, we're keeping 50% of the walls, but that can really be, you know, that can really be overridden, you know, in making a very large house, as you see in other parts of La Jolla. So I don't
We
know.
never got to ask, I would have asked that guy, why the wall? I just didn't, I
Well,
didn't get that in the
he thought we
design.
could do the 50% rule.
No, I mean, the wall around the property, that's not common really in the neighborhood. If you looked at
getting to
the
be.
renderings, he was building a low, like, I don't even want to call it a retaining wall because it wasn't retaining anything. It was just a wall.
So what are the most minimum things that we can call out in our letter, in addition to saying maybe, or if we write a letter to DSD and we say, we don't want you saying maybe you'll send us projects that are under the criteria. We want you to say that you shall send us the projects that are under the criteria. But I look at especially item 2, the review criteria they're going to generate a lot more projects coming our way. And I have to ask, is everybody comfortable with that? Meaning that you may have more really good process 1 candidates coming to you where you say, yeah, you're a process 1, even if you don't meet all the criteria, because where you are on your lot just works.
Right, if it's a small house and it says the increase by area 10% or less will be determined minor in scope, provided criteria B through G are also satisfied.
Right, and if you look at that, you know, that'll trigger a lot more referrals to us if we say, DSD, you shall send us projects that apply for a process 1 permit with these criteria.
So if it's a 2,600 square foot house and they're putting a 400-foot addition in the backyard where nobody can see it, you know, that shouldn't come to us.
It shouldn't, and if it's an ADU,
Unless it's,
it
you know,
won't come to us. You know, if it's a
But
one-story
ADUs
ADU.
have
Yes,
been
it
coming to
will.
us.
I disagree. I think that having these, what you might call marginal projects that do not satisfy all of the review criteria come to us is advantageous for the planners, because we give them backup. If they are criticized for ruling that the project is minor, they can say, the La Jolla Shores Advisory Board recommended that the project be minor.
And that's how you'd phrase the letter, right, Bert? You would say, we think we can help you. You shall send us these projects.
And maybe sometimes they need cover too,
Yeah.
because I'm sure they get pressure. I'm sure they do. So I've hesitated to use this as an example, but I know some of you will remember that my next door neighbor could not be heard because I had to recuse myself. I had occasion to ask Marlon about the project, and I learned that DSD had determined that it was a major project. So our assumption that they'll always let it slide is just not true. And I think that to some extent, we have to really give them credit for, doing their jobs to the best of their ability. So when I think about it, I do think that sometimes we are helping give them cover for resisting people's pressure to save them money and time by being a process one. So
And if I
let's
may
think
add-
about, and again, just to simplify, we can help you. I believe we have to come at it from that perspective to some extent. We want to see more things, and we believe we can help you get these processes working more efficiently. And I think we know how to review a project pretty quickly when it's not controversial.
Marlon.
Yeah, so I just wanted to add to that instance that Andrea had mentioned about her neighbor. So yeah, the PDO required a recommendation from the board, and since we fell short of a quorum to make an affirmative vote, they had to seek a non-codified ordinance and get that approved by the city council. So they had to kind of go to a more, extreme process to get that project forward. So that's how that happened.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's why, and that's why I don't understand, particularly this one that I'm looking at right now on up the hill. It didn't come to us, and it didn't come to the community planning group. But what happens too is that is that a project gets approved as a major, and it goes through, a lot of review and all. And then when they start building it, there's a whole bunch of construction changes, or they change it later, and that none of that ever comes to community review. So what ends up is this monster house that nobody saw coming.
And the other problem, Suzanne, is that I suspect that some of these monster houses aren't permitted at all. There are people who are counting on the proposition that the planning department isn't going to find out about their construction until it's finished. And then they're hoping that no judge is going to make them tear it down.
So
Well,
we
I'm not
can't-
quite as pessimistic as you are, Bert. I actually think that there are significant conformance reviews that come through on projects that have changed a lot. And I think that the bad hats do occasionally get outed, but you're right. It's a slow process, and lots of time the damage is done to the neighborhood. I just don't think it's that frequent.
Well,
but when it happens-
I don't want to suggest the frequency with which any of this happens, but I suspect that some of it does in fact happen.
So if we are to move forward on a letter, my proposal is that we, in order to comply with the Brown Act, we can't have a person compose a letter, kind of like we did with your suit, not a letter, but what your submission that was ignored, that we all see.
Well, here's what our submission said. This is kind of, in addition, an addition or alteration to a structure that increases gross floor area by 10% or less, or that increases floor area by no more than 1,000 square feet, may be deemed minor if all the following criteria are met. And then we said it's not visible from the public right of way, does not increase the height, and the addition does not reduce existing building structure setbacks in conformance with SDMC 1510. And so that covered what I was talking about, where you have the small house with a 400-foot addition.
Many of those, and a lot, and most of the time make an exception, or a lot of the times.
So yeah, my only purpose in writing this whole code suggestion was to give DSD the comment kind of came back from the planning department reviewer, and he said, well, this is going to increase the amount of projects that get sent to the advisory board. And I said, no. I wrote them back and I said, no, this hopefully the idea was to decrease some of these very obvious minor additions. And so then he said, well, we can do that by reviewing IB 621, and that's where it was left. So I'm just saying, I don't know if something in the letter could be said by something, if it's, if it's 10% and less than 1,000 feet, or I don't know if we want to do that, or just, the way, I guess if they bring it to us and it's a quick slam dunk and we say, yeah, it's definitely a minor, goodbye. It's not that big a deal for staff, so.
Well, I think you could easily do an introductory paragraph that starts out saying, we would like to help you in what is a difficult circumstance with regard to projects coming as major or minor. And we have looked at this in the community and cite the aspects you mentioned about through 621. You could bullet item even if you really wanted to, but you could just call them out. And then you could move into saying, we would like the DSD to consider the idea that they shall send us these projects rather than that they may send us these projects. With it, your introduction is telling them, we're not going to be hard and fast. We're not going to be unreasonable. We're going to look at it. If it's really small, if it's 1,000 feet, we're going to be easygoing, but we do think that it needs to be looked at.
Yeah, that's a good approach.
What I was saying is we need a subcommittee that will not conflict with the Brown Act, and that would be 3 people to write this letter and present it at the next meeting to the rest of us.
Jane, could I suggest you call it a working group instead of a subcommittee?
I will call it Bocce My Cat, if that's
Okay.
Working group sounds good because you're going to be doing the work. So,
And you said not Brown Act?
Yeah, if it's an ad hoc type
It's
of group,
not-
whether it's a
it's an ad
subcommittee, it's
hoc
not
working
subject to the
group.
Brown Act. If it's not a standing committee, yeah.
because it's not a quorum. That's why I picked 3 people.
That
Kathleen,
as
you're
well.
an obvious volunteer, so I'm volunteering you.
Yes.
And
And I think Suzanne, if she's willing, just because of all the work she did on the,
you know what? Let them ask, because Andrea might want to be on it, or Bert. So,
okay.
I do not. I do not.
all right, Phil.
No.
Can I just ask a
If
quick
nominated,
question?
I will run.
Andrea,
So-
All right, Bert, I'm just somebody who's a better writer than I am. I get kind of wordy.
Andrea,
I do have a question, and somebody did mention ADUs. When the state legislation was first passed, I sort of assumed that we would not be seeing ADUs. And maybe we see as many as we do because they're coming with additional project work. So they're going to do a big remodel and they're going to add an ADU. Marlon, if you could clarify any of that for me, I'd appreciate
Yeah.
it.
That is my understanding of why the ADU or those projects with ADUs came before the group, is because they were, just another project feature, but to a renovation or addition that triggered review before you guys.
Okay,
But,
thank
but
you.
Marlon, there's a process 1 CDP coming through the works now, right? Which means we could be seeing more ADUs here just because of it's in the coastal zone.
Well,
I don't have anything definite on that. So I can't comment whether that's confirmed or not.
Okay.
But you might be
once
right.
the
but I-
coastal commission approves some of these coastal, the coastal commission, we're getting, a lot of the old rules are still applying because the coastal commission hasn't approved the code updates from a year ago, not just recent, but there's 2 code updates which will affect the coastal zone that the coastal commission has to approve.
That's right. Yeah. So the
They
one where it introduced new FARs for single family areas in the shores, that still has not been certified yet. So the old rules still do apply.
And then there's some special rules for ADUs and that, and
That might be the,
conflicts with the lot coverage possibly, and then there are some certain, there's 800 feet is allowed, 800 additional feet in the lot coverage, and the FAR is allowed because if it's an ADU, and
Well, there are some of those actually coming into not to the shores, but there are some of those developments where it's a single story freestanding ADU less than 750 feet, and it is a process one. And there's one
Yeah.
I can tell you if you want to see it, walk down Bird, I can't remember it, the lane between Torrey Pines and Virginia. So it's happening in the coastal, but I do think the uptick is slow because it's not I don't think it's a simple process one in the coastal area, but that's why DSD is coming up with this terminology for various things now, that there is a process one coastal development permit that, at least with regard to outdoor eating, has gone through the Coastal Commission.
Marlon, getting back to the ADUs, I don't remember that Sherry was going to do any remodeling to her own house. That was just strictly an ADU. Remember Sherry Leitner when she
Yeah.
came? That was strictly an ADU, which, by the way,
Yeah, that's
she hasn't even been
right,
able to
yeah.
build it.
Yeah, I think that was the case with,
Yes, and those are allowed a zero setback.
mhm.
So anyway,
We did not recommend that, which I was sad about because I
No,
didn't
but
have
it went to a
problem with it.
process too. So it wasn't just a ministerial permit.
Yeah,
we did not recommend it. We did not come to a conclusion.
in action, right?
We didn't make any recommendation because it
Thank you, Jane.
and
I
Sherry
think
still
that
hasn't
went
been able
through,
to build
that
it yet.
got approved by the.
Anyway, okay, so we have Kathleen. I'll be on it, but Bert and Sue, yes or no?
Kathleen, Bert, and Sue all said they would do it.
Sue said she didn't want to do it, I thought.
Oh, you
No, I
did?
just said I would have it along with me, with somebody else who's maybe a better writer when we figure out what we want to say.
Kathleen, Bert and Sue, and so you'll be presenting that at the next meeting, which will be
Ooh.
February 15th,
That's our last Zoom meeting.
that's right.
that is our last Zoom meeting.
So that means that the three of us will meet. Does that mean that we need to have Marlon notice our meeting? I mean, I would do that
Oh.
from a Brown Act point of view, but it's up to you.
Oh, so it's not a standing meeting, it would be an ad hoc working group or subcommittee, and those aren't subject to the Brown Act. We can certainly post something and I'll just have it on the website, and we can open up a Zoom meeting for you guys, and if anybody wants to jump in, they can. We could do that way.
I think that is more inclusive. I know we tried to do that with the ad hoc from the CPA, and I think you're right, you don't get many people, but at least when the questions come up, you can say that you did make an outreach.
Yeah, just let me know what date you guys want to meet.
But Marlon, one of us can't go in on those meetings, right? Because then it would be
It would only be the three identified. Mhm.
right. So,
Yeah.
Well,
do we want to meet at somebody's house or what?
Why don't you all figure that out?
We could do it via Zoom if it's before March. Definitely.
You
So.
can practice. You can get someplace at 10 o'clock.
Mhm. And also, if there wasn't anything in adjournment, I'd like to offer an adjournment in memory of Tony Kempton. You guys will, yes, he passed away before the holidays.
What?
Yes, he did. Yeah, so I wanted to take this
Oh,
opportunity to let everyone know. So yeah, he did pass away.
Come on, Marlon.
Yeah, he was with our department for 22 years. Yeah.
Was it unexpected? Can I
Well,
ask?
unexpected to us because, Tony had cancer and he didn't mention anything like that to us. And he was struggling with it for, I believe, a couple of years. And he didn't inform us. So it was a shock to all of us.
Oh my God, now I feel bad about all the comments we made about his minutes.
Well, yeah, the minutes, and he was the community planning.
He was our staff member.
He was our staff member, but he had several other.
Right.
He was on several other important, difficult committees.
Yeah,
Like
he
the
was
CPC.
liaison for the CPC. So I'm kind of taking that over for now. So yeah, there was other communities like Peninsula, Rancho Bernardo, a lot of the I-15 communities that he was the community planner of. And like I said, he was with the department since '99. Yeah, so he had quite a long, stint here in the department.
No,
Well,
not
certainly we appreciated everything you did as a staff member, even if there were rocky roads at times. It's still a loss, and we're sorry to hear about it.
Marlon, thank you for bringing this up and letting us know. And I think it's very appropriate to adjourn in his honor.
yeah. Thank you, Marlon.
And I'm
Thank you.
sorry for the loss.
He was always a quiet guy, but wow. I mean, he's he was a good guy. I sat
Yes,
next to him all the
absolutely.
time.
He used to come and help us set up. And when we were in that little room in the rec center.
Obviously did his best at everything he did. So that it's a hard thing to contend with.
Wow.
Okay, well, thank you, Marlon. And our next meeting is February 15th as announced. It'll be a Zoom, and we are adjourning in Tony's memory. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Okay, bye-bye.